Okay, so let's go ahead and continue. Anyway, so we have this input field. It says disabled and it says disabled input. So what is the value of disabled input? At the moment it's false, so the input is not disabled. Henceforth, we can basically enter our text. So, tra la 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 la. Enter. It doesn't. Nothing will happen, of course, because we didn't configure any logic for that. But if we go into the app component and if we basically, it says disabled input false, and if we change this to true and save it, okay, wait for the page to reload. And this is what I want you to be doing. Basically, go ahead and change things. Change as many things as you want and as many things as you can and see what happens. So as you can see, we can, I don't know, type something in here. We can, well, we can't type into the other ones, but we can type in something here. But look, here where it says enter your text in the first one, we can't do anything. In the blue one, sure, this one no, and this one no. So the first row has been disabled completely, but this one we can type in whatever we want because these have not been disabled, but the input in the top ones has been disabled. Now, why has the input been disabled for all three of these? Right? We just wanted to disable it for one. What happened? This is something that's a little bit unpredictable. Well, not really. Look, all three of these are dependent on exactly the same variable. So regardless of whether or not it's a method here or whether or not it's just a Boolean value here, it doesn't matter. This method returns this Boolean value. So in turn, it's the same. So these three inputs, which correspond to the first three inputs from left to right in the first row, their input has been disabled completely, and that does not work anymore. So if we change this to false and save it, just go ahead and wait for this to recompile. Okay, so now we can once again enter our text. Sorry, not test. And if we come down to this line, if you remember, I stated that I would explain what this is. So let me just reload the site quickly here. So this one by default is test. Why? Well, the value is equal to current user dot username. So this is still we're still doing pretty much the same thing, property binding. So you can do that also for the value. And if the value of this field is current user dot username, that means that the value will be test because it will return the username. But then we have the placeholder equals to enter your text. And if we delete this, you will see enter your text appear. So that's what's going on here, these last two snippets of code. I just wanted to show you that logic and why is that there and what happens there. And lastly, we have these last two lines here where we explain some sort of coloration. So as I said, we have blue-bg, which whose Boolean that we are binding to it has been defined here. So let me just see where it is. So is blue bg Boolean equals true. So will it be blue? Yes, it will be blue. So enter your text. How do we know that it's blue? Well, have a look around. We've stated that was the very first line that we have changed. It says blue-bg background color. It's blue. So please go ahead and change these things and try to change the colors. It should be fairly simple. I mean, just type in something else here and see what happens. In fact, let's go ahead and just green. Okay. I wish this was kind of faster. I gave 4 cores and 8 gigs of RAM, but it's still kind of slow. Anyway, it says enter your text, but now it's green. So these are the sort of changes that I want you to play around with, and don't just wait for me to tell you what to change. Go and change things on your own. I mean, what is the worst that can happen? You can just break the site, but who cares? You're just testing it anyway. So blue. You can do pretty much whatever you want there, play around with it and see what happens. What sort of results do you get? Okay, so going back here, it says down below style.background color, and this actually, we're actually passing the name of the color that we want. So you see there's background color, and you can relate this to this. It says background color. So In this particular case, they don't have much to do with each other, but here you set style.background color, and then you assign the name of the color that you would like. So it's basically the string is equal to red. So BG color is our string that we are binding here, and it says BG color, so it's red. Therefore, this input field will be red. I don't know if I change it to gray. Let's see, will this work? Yep, it will. So as you can see, the field color has changed. Now it is gray. So that should be it. Yep, that is the last line. Anyway, once again, please change as many things as you can and then observe the effects of your change on the site itself. I'm literally begging you to do that. So we're not going to do a lot of things here, but we'll do something fairly cool and interesting, I would say, in any case. Once again, you will be able to find the code either under the lectures or somewhere else. You will be given instructions. In any case, just go back to the instructions in the introduction, and there I will state where you can actually find the code. Anyway, so once again, we are in our app component.ts. So we're still doing some basic things, but fairly soon we will actually start building our application. Before we go there, I wish to go over these things. So we have effectively trimmed down our app.component.ts, and create user has remained the same, hide email has remained the same, interface user, pretty much everything is the same, except the basic one is the same, but we have implemented this method here. It says private toggle, and it says this.hide email equals negate email, hide email. So whatever the current version of whatever the current value of hide email is, negate it. So if it's true, put it to false. If it's false, put it to true. So we're just negating it. Whatever it is, we're negating it. That's what the exclamation mark here is for. Now that's all we need to do here. Just create this one small simple method, and then we can go back to our HTML code, which has also been trimmed down to a great extent as opposed to the previous versions. So we still have this part here. We are going to leave that as it is. That has been explained previously, but down below we have button. And we will add a button, and we will perform event binding here. We will bind the click event to toggle method. So we have the toggle method in the app component.ts, which basically just sets the status of hide email. So if hide email is true, once this method is called, it will become false, or if it's false, it will become true once this method is called. So this is just the button, and we have an event, which is click, and we're binding it to this method here. When the click event occurs, we're going to call that function, but unlike property binding, we will use parentheses here. So as you can see, here you have blocks, and here you have parentheses. So, and here the binding always goes from event to component. So from this event, sorry, not button, but from this event here to the component. So from left to right in our case here. And once we click the button, this is going to be called. But down below we have this is pretty much the same. The two of these are pretty much the same, but this is basically mouse leave. So when we go over this button, and once the mouse leaves the button area, this event will be called, and hence this function, this method will be called as well. So we can bind any event in the HTML that is in existence in this fashion, and same goes for property binding. If you wish to see the list of all the HTML events, just type in HTML events list and go onto the net, and you will find the listing, I assure you. So let's see how this actually works. Let's see it in action. So just save both files before anything happens and make sure the server is running. So when I click on this, you will see it will hide. And when I click again, it will, okay, so the mouse leave is messing me up a little bit. Okay, so it's hidden now. let's go over the toggle mouse sleeve. So we are at the moment looking at what this line does, and whatever this line does will be reflected onto this line because this this property is actually bound to hide email boolean, and since this method actually changes the value of hide email boolean, this will in turn change as well. So whether hide email is true or false, that is what this element will be dependent on. That is whether it will be displayed or not. So if I go over mouse leave and then my mouse actually leaves this area, you will see the function is called and then this is printed out. This is shown on the screen. If I do that again, it goes away. Same goes for clicking. If I click, it shows. If I click again, it disappears. But okay. Oh my god. Okay, I can't click fast enough because then the toggle mouse happens as well, but let's go ahead and do this and make this disappear just for a second. Okay, okay, so if I click, it shows. If I click again, it disappears. I'm sure that you've seen this on sites a lot of times. And by the way, these are HTML comments. This is how you would create a comment block. So this is all that I wanted to show you here. And before I'm done, I want you to play around with this. I want you to create all sorts of buttons that perform all sorts of actions. Go nuts. Do whatever you can to learn and have fun doing it. But I think this is a pretty cool feature, so I wanted to show it to you, and I wanted to explain event binding through it. So bid you farewell and hope to see you in the follow-up.